Let's continue our conversation with Ellis Henican, radio and TV commentator, joining us today via phone from New Orleans, and from our Newsmax TV South Florida newsroom, Javier Manjarres, managing editor of the Shark Tank political blog. Javier, the comparison that Nas offers, do you agree with it?
Listen, these bloggers, these rappers should stick what they do best, rapping about sexism and whatever. Because look, when they want to inject themselves into the political fold, they make fools of themselves. There's no way that these protests look like apartheid. It's completely two different animals. And again, these racial protests are going to continue when we continue seeing people like Nas and other rappers and other race baiters like Al Sharpton. They keep spewing their hatred. This is going to continue.
Ellis, your take.
Well, listen, no historical analogy is ever right? I mean, nothing is as bad as the Nazis. No one is as dumb as Dan Quayle, and we don't live today in apartheid, right? I mean, that's just the reality. So let's agree that no comparison is ever apt. That said, there are some legitimate political issues that need to be resolved here. There are genuine issues in our country about the relations between our underclasses and the policing of them. And it's a reasonable discussion, and we ought to talk about it intelligently. And just sloganeering on it in any direction doesn't really help that conversation.
Well, you mentioned sloganeering, and rightly or wrongly, and we see on the video of some of the protests going on, the hashtag slogan we have seen, Black Lives Matter. Shouldn't that be answered with a realization that all lives matter, Ellis?
Okay. Yeah, and if I could have one that says other kind of lives matter. But why be offended by that, right? Women have the cause of women's rights. Latinos talk about trying to deal with some of their special issues. I don't know. I guess all lives matter. But I don't object to some group saying, hey, look at us, our lives matter too.
Well, here's the reason I raised the issue, and you were just announcing sloganeering, Ellis, but let me get Javier's take on it. This notion of wedge issues, yes, there can be identity politics, but Javier, is this going beyond identity politics when, quote, protesters are calling for the killing of police?
Yeah, but where's the leadership? I mean, where's President Obama? Where's Al Sharpton? Look, this wouldn't happen years back. Even under Clinton, that we had racial strife in this country, and we never got to this point. It's gotten to this point because we have a president who really, this is what he wants. He's inciting this through putting out his race, his whipping boy, Al Sharpton, out there to do his bidding. This is about leadership. This should not have happened this time around. It didn't happen through Clinton. It didn't happen years back through the Bushes or even Kennedy. This is all about Obama.
Well, let's talk about it in the minute that remains. Ellis, we remember back when Bill Clinton was a candidate for president with his, quote, Sister Souljah moment, when he stood up and took exception culturally to some of the music by people like Sister Souljah. Will we ever see a similar moment from Barack Obama?
Oh, yeah, once in a while politicians need to do that, but it's a trap, really, J.D. I mean, I wouldn't ask you to denounce every stupid thing you ever heard in your life. You'd be hoarse by the time you get done. Every single day, I hear things that I disagree with that people say that are wrong. I'm sure you and Javier have the same thing. I can take responsibility for stuff I say. I don't know if I want to worry about every dumb thing anybody else did.
All right, well, let's give a thoughtful comment. We'll listen now to Javier. Javier, last 20 seconds belong to you.
I agree with Ellis, but again, this is what we're living with now, this racism, this racial divide, this Black Lives Matter. I don't think you should be offended by it, but again, this falls in the laps of President Barack Obama and Al Sharpton. This is their doing.
All right, gentlemen, we will have to leave it there. Ellis Henican, who had to phone it in realistically, but figuratively never phones it in, from New Orleans, and Javier Manjarres from our newsroom. Gentlemen, thank you. America's Forum will be right back.